So it's a pretty normal occurrence that whenever I come back to Atlanta, we stop here at Taco Mac and get some wings. Usually wings and beer, but today it was just wings because I'm actually about to get back on the road, so I'm not going to be drinking and driving. But what I noticed today was that the food tasted a little different. And I don't know if this is like a normal occurrence, and it was primarily the chicken. Um, and I also noticed this when the other night Michelle had cooked dinner, and she even made a video about it, talking about how the chicken felt different. And I don't know, I don't know if this is like some sort of response or side effect of what we experienced earlier this year and last year with some of these food supply issues, these processing plants being burned down, the bird flu, and how this is having an impact on our supply, and maybe how certain restaurants are able to, or where certain restaurants are able to get their food from now that some of their normal supplier chains have been cut off or have some sort of deviation. And unfortunately, I love this place. I don't have them in Florida, so when I ever come back to Atlanta, I'm going to. It was pretty much understood that we were going to come back here, but for the food that I love the most, that I would come here for, if it's going to taste strange and odd, I don't even know what the possible health risks could be associated with it. I may have to look to change what once was a favorite, and maybe even revamp my entire eating and meal plan diet in the future. But I have some serious concerns about the future of our food supply, and possibly food shortages leading us to find ourselves in situations in these restaurants and different places in these situations where they have to change the food that they have available, the resources, the raw materials, the ingredients to, pretty much comply with what is available. And, there could be possibility of a shift and push towards some of these plant-based and possible beyond meat type foods and alternatives, and moving away from meat per se, and preparing. I don't know, maybe this is all part of a big plan to limit the food supply that we have been used to, while bringing up and pushing out and implementing a new replacement food supply alternative, and just pushing this and driving this. Now, granted, businesses and companies like McDonald's, these fast food chains, they try to work some deals out with some of these alternative food producing companies, for instance, Beyond Meat, but it didn't really pan out too well, and the consumers, the shoppers, the customers are not really feeling it. And at the same time, Beyond Meat just reported a multi-million-dollar loss, and they're going to have to actually cut back and lay some people off and try to mitigate this situation as their company is losing money. But it still comes down to the food and the food availability, food insecurities, food shortages. Hopefully we don't run into more food shortages, especially this winter. And because more food shortages ultimately just mean more inflation, more price increases, more gouging, more challenges at the grocery store that Americans are seeing every single day, as their pay is constantly taking a hit and their expenses are continuously going up, while adding to that the fear and panic and paranoia of possibly not even having enough food to buy at the grocery store. As somebody told me just the other day that they went to a Kroger in North Atlanta, and they said they were going to pick up they just needed a few things. They were picking up a bottle of wine and I think some coffee creamer and something else. But they said that when they walked in this Kroger, the shelves were empty. And they haven't seen these shelves empty for a long time. And you guys can go back to some of our previous videos between myself and Preparing for Survival, and the last time we really had some serious empty shelves food shortage videos. And she told me, this friend of mine told me, that it felt like she was back to those times again at this particular Kroger. I don't know if it was the time of day, the timing of the interval of stocking, but she did point out, she made a note to say that she didn't see any pallets in the store or on the floors like they were going to be restocking. So that's what made it even more concerning for her and the situation that she was witnessing. And you know, I just sharing the information with you guys, just sharing this update with you. I want to know what's going on. I want you to know what's going on. If you have any information, any intel, any real experience, any boots on the ground intel that you can share with us all about what's going on with our food. Why does our food taste different? You know, why does our food taste different? Why does our food make us feel different? I mean, unless it's just me, maybe it's just me. And you know, we all know possibly the push behind it. We've got, not only do we have China coming in and buying up massive amounts of farmland all over the country, but particularly buying up farmland that surrounds and backs up to military property, federal military property. Now that's a concern. But on top of that, we also have, you know, rich billionaires like Bill Gates buying up farmland, which traditionally wouldn't have occurred. But he found a loophole to this and was able to make it happen. I guess, you know, depending on how much money you got, you can almost get away with murder, really. At least you could probably get away with DUIs. You know, Nancy Pelosi's husband was pulled over for driving under the influence, but pretty much got a slap on the wrist and was allowed time to sober up. And he probably won't face any adverse or ill consequences that you and I would face, beyond being immediately handcuffed and taken to jail and losing our license and being hit with tons of fines and fees and penalties and community service or anything like that. But this is what they are doing to us, and they're getting away with it. And we got to pay attention. We got to pay attention. We got to be prepared for this. We got to have a plan to, you know, adapt and adjust and respond and or retaliate. I know in other countries we're seeing some retaliation, not physically, but you know, other countries are starting to withdraw more cash. They're starting to hit the banks, grab cash, have it available to them, so they don't find themselves in a situation where the bank denies them their money, and fall victim to this fractional banking practice that just basically takes your money and then spreads it amongst so many other, like spreads it so thin that it's not actually your money anymore. It's not there. It's not physically available. But also there's so much pressure that we're seeing. And the thing is, when you see these occur in other countries, you got to understand that they will trickle over to the United States, to American citizens, and they're being hit with record high increases on utility costs, and their expenses are just going through the roof. And they're making a collective effort to say, hey, look, we're all just not going to pay anything because we can't afford it. It's going crazy. Something's got to give. Something's got to stop. So they're just making a collective effort, almost like these strikes that we see these unions putting together, and they're making a collective effort to say, hey, we're not going to pay. And, you know, the businesses are actually pushing for this. Think about it. These businesses are hurting the employees. Nobody is out there, no companies are out there creating roundtable discussions and coalitions to try to bring prices down. Inflation is a problem, but record profits are occurring left and right across most businesses, and they're not trying to do anything for it. So eventually we're going to find ourselves in a situation where the businesses are extremely wealthy and the consumers are extremely poor. So if you had your choice of one or the other, which would you rather have? Extremely wealthy businesses with poor consumers, or reasonably well-off consumers and businesses that are doing okay? Because if the businesses are wealthy and the consumers are poor, the businesses have basically just cut off their customers altogether because they won't be able to afford the products and services that they're selling.